We're live.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's blended meeting of the Southwestern City School District Board of Education. The Ohio Legislature approved emergency legislation to allow school district boards of education to conduct meetings by teleconference or video conference, providing the meeting can also be observed by the general public. In order to comply with this requirement, tonight's meeting is being broadcast live via Zoom and also on the district's YouTube channel. While operating under this blended virtual environment and in the spirit of maintaining public participation, the board has accepted written comments in addition to those wishing to speak during the meeting on non-agenda items. Those wishing to address the board regarding non-agenda items must have submitted the required information to speak at the meeting or written comments to be read at the meeting prior to noon today. As of noon today, we do have one person signed up to speak regarding non-agenda items. Those wishing to address the board on agenda items may submit their name, topic of their comments, email address, and the phone number from which they may be calling in the chat area of this Zoom meeting between now and 7 p.m. This will ensure that all voices can be heard. Please use the following guidelines. Only 3 people may speak or submit written comments on the same topic. Each speaker may take up to 5 minutes to address the board, and each speaker may not reflect adversely on individuals. While public participation will not be interactive during tonight's meeting, follow-up with individuals submitting public comments will occur at a later time. All comments are considered public record and are therefore subject to the Freedom of Information Act. Thank you again for attending tonight's Board of Education meeting. Having received confirmation that the video is streaming correctly, our Board of Education President, Mr. Robert Ragland, will now call the meeting to order.
Thank you for attending tonight's blended virtual meeting of the Southwestern City School District Board of Education, dated Monday, November 16th, 2020. While the agenda will be visible during the meeting for those watching online, you may also follow along using the agenda posted on our website at www.swcsd.us under the Board of Education tab. Please remember that public participation will not be interactive during tonight's meeting. And please note that tonight's blended meeting may not run perfectly, but we are doing our best to keep things running smoothly as we continue down the path of blended virtual school board meetings. And with that being said, I'd like to call the meeting to order.
Mr. Caldwell.
Here.
Mr. Donofrio.
Here.
Ms. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Schreiner.
Here.
Mr. Ragland.
Here. And adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Schreiner.
Second.
Mr. Schreiner.
Yes.
Mr. Donofrio.
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes. And also I need a motion for the approval of the minutes.
Mr. President. Moved by Johnson.
Schreiner second, if there is none.
I think we have Mr. Donofrio moved and Ms. Johnson second.
You got it.
All right. Mr. Donofrio.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. Schreiner.
Yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes. And next up, we have a presentation, Project Schools, Teachers College by Mr. Brian Bowser.
Thank you, President Ragland, Vice President Johnson, members of the board, Dr. Wise and Mr. Garside. It is a pleasure to be with you tonight and continue a conversation that we actually started last winter. Things were a little different then, about our partnership with Columbia and Teachers College in New York. And tonight I wanted to update you on how that partnership has continued to grow and where we stand today in a very unusual time. Next slide, Meredith. You know, on behalf of my colleagues, I want to remind you that this is a K-8 partnership. So Dr. Spain and the middle grades team is also involved, as well as many folks in the curriculum team. But part of the reason we began a partnership with Columbia was because they have the same goals that we do. Our frameworks all remain the same, that our real goal is to develop avid, skilled readers, writers, and inquirers. And that's also the mission of the project, which functions in New York as both a think tank and a learning organization. So we saw it to be a great fit. Next slide. Last winter, when we embarked on this for the first time, we had 4 project schools. And this year, we're proud to show you or tell you about, we have 6 of them. In elementary, we have Richard Avenue and Stiles, both in year 2. And Highland Park has embarked on their very first year with the project. In the middle grades, Finland Middle and Franklin Woods are in year 2, and Pleasant View has joined this year. What does it mean to be a project school? Well, first of all, these schools applied and asked to be part of this. It's an intense professional development partnership where at least 5 times a year per grade band. So 5 days for K2, 5 days for 3-4, 5 for 5-6, and 5 for 7-8. We partner with a developer from Columbia. This year it looks a little different. You can see in the picture there, the developers zoomed in from New York, and our teachers are engaged in our classrooms with live students, and we're practicing teaching. So it's not only a sit and get partnership or learning information, there is some of that, but it's also an boots on the ground in the classroom. How do we transform instruction and lift our students up? Next slide, Meredith. In addition to the partner schools, that's one key part because it's very intensive and concentrated in 6 of our schools. But there are also branches that go out throughout the district at this point. We told you about summer institutes in summer of 18 and 19 live here in the district where 150 teachers participated. And even though last summer was a bit odd, we held another one and filled it to capacity with 75 K-8 teachers participating virtually with partnership of, it's a week in the summer on their own time, partnering with the learning in New York City. We've offered homegrown institutes to our principals. We've flown and traveled to New York project schools to see what students in New York are doing further along, maybe 8, 10, 12 years into the project and what's possible for where we're going. What's also important to note here is throughout this year, there have been, one of the positives of this pandemic is while New York is maybe difficult to access, they've offered a variety of professional development. Every week, for example, on Wednesday nights, they do a supper club where I know we have principals and coaches zooming into New York City every night for a roundtable chat about the latest trends in practice. So you can see on the right there examples of both in our classroom and with our teachers virtually engaging with different professional developers. Next slide. Another strength of this partnership has been throughout our K-8 program, developing structures that are consistent. We've always had this. This is work to unify us. I never like to say uniform. We're working to unify. And so from K to 8, trying to build a structure that matches so our students are familiar and our teachers are excited and familiar as they talk to one another. And you can see here some examples about how we've had to modify and maybe shrink some of this as we've entered into a blended and somewhat different reality. Next slide. Another partnership are the quality materials. I'm going to share with you a few testimonials here at the end, but over and over again, our teachers, as we've provided these resources for them, have appreciated, I think I've heard overwhelmingly, the unified language, the uniform mini lessons, and the spiral that happens so our students continue to build and build, regardless of whether you go to where you go to school in our district or where you might move. I was just in a conversation with some teachers today, excited about sharing how it's so much easier to jump in and out of the blended learning environment when we're all talking the same language. And the program and the materials are really built on student interest and real text with characters that might look like them. And so that focus on books and engagement is just something to totally be appreciative of. And as we're watching it blossom, is exciting to see. Next slide. I wanted to highlight this one more time for you because I said to you last winter, one of the things that stands out in our data, as I've studied it with a partner, Ohio State, with some longitudinal data, is our vocabulary scores consistently are lower than our counterparts nationally and in the state. And that is regardless of what your zip code is or what your previous experiences are. So I know it's something, and our coaches and our teachers have told me this is something we have to take on. And we've worked in the last couple of years to outfit every classroom K2 with systematic play-based phonics, best I've ever seen on the market. These are the mascots of that program. And if you go anywhere and talk about Mabel, Gus, or Rashid, kids will light up and so will teachers. But as we've embarked further and further into this, what I also know is grades 3 and 4 need some work in this. And with the excitement and push of our coaches and teachers, quite frankly, we're planning to move this into grades 3 and 4 with some additional resources to support that vocabulary development. So I just wanted to update you. This is something, while we're a bit disrupted right now, we continue to look at, and I definitely know is a need based on what our data is telling us. Next slide. Finally, I thought the best people, although they're not in the room tonight, to tell you about our partnership are our teachers and our principals. These are 3 quotes and I won't read them to you, but anytime I talk about our profession and I read the words joy, I'm changing and growing, and these are veterans as well. And the consistency, I think it's a real celebration and a win for our children. And so that is just a quick update of the good work that continues. And with that, next slide, I'll take any questions that you might have or comments.
I'd like to take this opportunity to reinforce the good work that the curriculum team's done in partnership with us. A couple of things I'd like to highlight for the board tonight as we look at this. This is perhaps the best embedded professional development. When you look at professions throughout and they talk about job embedded professional development, with the coaches and practitioners from Columbia, they are receiving phenomenal research-based reflective practices based on what the researchers see in their classroom. And that only helps strengthen schools and strengthens teacher skills. And so that job embedded piece is perhaps some of the best I've ever seen in professional development. The other thing that Brian hit on, while he talked about a lot about structures and common language throughout this, the other piece is that it does for teachers is it gives them the diagnostics of now what. So when a child is weak in this skill area or is demonstrating this skill, they've got a place to go for best practice as far as now, how do I remediate that? How do I do this differently in order to get those skills? And I think those are two of the things that set this program apart, as well as the research base for their recommendations. So it's a phenomenal find. It's a great partnership. And I just wanted to highlight those things from our perspective. And that's part of the reason we think it's so good, and that it's being helpful to our students in their reading skills and writing.
What a great program. That's great.
Anybody else? Fine job, Mr. Bowser. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next up, board reports, none. And we don't have any relative agenda items for public participation. Well, next up, legislation, Mr. Lee Schreiner.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you know, this is the end of a year in the General Assembly. So this is a lame duck Ohio State House right now. And we have a changing picture that takes place each day. You may have also seen the governor did a press conference that announced revised masks orders and new social gathering orders, which are issued. But most importantly, coming out of the House Finance Committee, the committee accepted a substitute version of House Bill 305, which creates a new school funding formula. Testimony is taking place, pro and con, that began this week. And you'll be hearing much more about that. Another name for that is Patterson. They're tweaking this bill. It's important to mention, and I'll mention that Representative Patterson, his quote is, "Time is not our ally right now," for a number of reasons, one of which is he is term limited, and he is one of the creators of this bill. So his time is limited. Also, in the Senate then, Peggy Lehner and Vernon Sykes introduced a Senate bill that details an updated fair school funding plan companion. This bill is a companion bill to a forthcoming substitute bill for House Bill 305, as I mentioned. It was to be introduced in the House Finance Committee this week. House Bill 305, the Fair School Funding Plan, was originally introduced in June 2019 by Speaker of the House Robert Cupp, hence Cupp Patterson. However, he is now the Speaker of the House. So there is another representative who has been involved the whole time, who has been serving now since he became Speaker. We may wish to consider this as a new resolution at our next board meeting. And I know we'll probably be talking more about that with the hopes that this school funding takes place. It's also important to note that vouchers and charters will, if this plan goes into effect, be funded directly from the state. This change in the flow of funding in no way restricts the expansion of vouchers or any other school choice program, nor does it reduce the negative effect these programs have on school districts in Ohio, public schools. Separating the funding streams will not increase the total state funding for K through 12 education. And finally, I would just like to mention that the Ohio Controlling Board approved a request to increase appropriation authority in the amount of $150 million in fiscal year 2021 for the Summer Food Service Program and to reimburse meals served by schools, districts, and other program providers during the COVID-19 pandemic. Some positive news. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, sir. And next up, student and staff achievement, Mr. Anthony Caldwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll try to be brief tonight. First, we have up Franklin Heights High School Marching Band entered the Central States Judges Association 2020 Virtual National Marching Band Championship, along with 29 other bands from Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Florida, Pennsylvania, Mississippi, South Carolina, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Nebraska. I feel like I'm reading an election map here. The Golden Falcons submitted a video for their performance at the Lancaster High School Invitational on October 10th, 2020, and they were named first place in music, which is awesome, second place in general effect, great, in percussion and auxiliary, and second place overall in the 4A class. So congratulations to the Franklin Heights High School Marching Band. Really proud of them. And next we have our Grove City High School senior Lizzie Sauer will be recognized as one of the Better Business Bureau's Students of Integrity with a scholarship. Those recipients, Students of Integrity Scholarship recipients during their Torch Awards for Ethics celebration on November 18th at 12:30 p.m. on NBC4. That'll be live streamed, and student recipients will be featured in a video montage in the middle of the program. So look for Lizzie on November 18th at 12:30 p.m. on NBC4. That concludes tonight's student and staff achievement report. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Kudos to all our kids. And on a personal note, I do know the assistant band director at Franklin Heights.
I was going to say that, but I figured I'd leave that to you. So
He eats my food, drinks my water. Next up is fiscal and operational management, Mr. Lee Schreiner.
Thank you again, President Ragland. Tonight, we have 9 action items under fiscal and operational management. The first are revised permanent appropriations for fiscal year 2020-2021. Exhibit X1, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the revised permanent appropriations. Secondly, investments and financial statements for October 2020, Exhibit X2 and X3, it's recommended that in accordance with Section 135.14 of the Ohio Revised Code, the Board of Education approve October investments, Exhibit X2, and cash position report for the month of October 2020, Exhibit X3 is submitted. Total investments, $404,832,601.37. Interest earnings month to date, $137,018.95. Interest earnings year to date, $1,069,254.01. Interest rates 0.010 to 2.950%. Third, payment of bills, Exhibit X4. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve payment of bills according to the list of checks for the month of October 2020. Donations, number 4, Exhibit X5, total donations of $17,997.50. Thank you to all who contributed, is greatly appreciated. Fifth, authorization to pay bills in accordance with Section 5705.41 Ohio Revised Code, Exhibit X6. It's recommended that the Board of Education authorize the treasurer to pay bills for October, which were not processed in accordance with Section 5705.41 Ohio Revised Code. Next, appointment to the Ohio School Boards Association, OSBA Board of Trustees. It is recommended that the Board of Education appoint Robert Ragland Sr. to OSBA Board of Trustees for the 2021 calendar year. He currently serves on that board. Seventh, resolution to participate in the Meta Solutions Cooperative Bus Purchasing Program. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the resolution to participate in the Meta Solutions Cooperative Bus Purchasing Program. Eighth, agreement with I Know I Can. It is recommended that the Board of Education enter into an agreement with I Know I Can for the remainder of the 2020-2021 school year as presented, Exhibit X7. And finally, number 9, appoint Rich and Gillis Law Group LLC. It's recommended that the Board of Education authorize Jeffrey A. Rich and the law firm of Rich and Gillis Law Group LLC to represent the Board of Education in real estate tax matters as required by law for calendar year 2021, see Exhibit X8. And Mr. President, after reviewing these action items, I move them for passage tonight.
Thank you. Since we have a motion, we have a second.
All right, Mr. Shriner,
Yes.
Mr. Donofrio,
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes, and with abstaining from item number 6.
Thank you.
And next up, Facilities and Development, Mr. David Donofrio.
Thank you, President Ragland. Good evening. On tonight's agenda for facilities development, we have one item, a resolution authorizing and approving the program of requirements and schematic design stage submissions for the Jackson Middle School project for the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. Having reviewed this item, I recommend its passage and move to do so at this time.
Thank you. You have a second?
Second, Anthony Caldwell.
Mr. Donofrio,
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Shriner,
Yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes. And next up, we have Personnel, Vice President Kathy Johnson.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, one more. Iacoba.
No problem. Mr. President, on the agenda tonight for students, school, and community, we have two items for consideration. To approve the reappointment of Sue Hamilton to the Southwest Public Library's Board of Trustees for a term to begin January 1st, 2021 and ending on December 31st, 2027. And second, to rescind approval for the Grove City High School Travel Club's planned trip to England and Scotland in June 2021 due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Having reviewed these items, I recommend their passage and move to do so at this time.
Well, thank you very much. Is there a
Second, Shriner.
Mr. Donofrio,
Yes.
Mr. Shriner,
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Ragland.
Yes. And next up, now Personnel, Vice President Kathy Johnson.
Thank you, President Reisling. Oh, good. Throwback. President Ragland.
Activity.
On the board agenda this evening are 8 personnel items involving 340 persons. They include 9 certificated resignations, 1 administrative employment, 9 certificated changes in employment status, 277 certificated employments, 6 classified resignations, 19 classified changes in employment status, 19 classified employments, and 1 recommendation to approve an agreement between the Southwestern City School District Board of Education and the Franklin County Sheriff's Department for services at Franklin Heights High School and Westland High School for the 2020-2021 school year. Having reviewed these items, I move them for passage.
Vice President Johnson, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Donofrio,
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell,
Yes.
Mr. Shriner,
Yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes, with abstention from item O, please. Okay, next up, we have public participation relative to agenda items. And the speaker is Mr. Bob Ruth.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, this is I'm talking on a non-agenda item. I don't know. I can talk right now. My name is Bob Ruth and I live at 4744 Count Fleet Drive, Grove City. A number of years ago, I was critical of Southwestern's finances. However, since then, Dr. Wise, Hugh Gartside, and this board have done a great job at providing quality education for our children while keeping a close watch on finances. Again, I'd like to express my hearty congratulations to all you folks. Unfortunately, your good work is being undermined by Grove City officials who have handed wealthy real estate developers millions of dollars in property tax giveaways. These tax giveaways by Grove City alone are costing Southwestern schools $3.4 million a year in lost revenue. As we speak, the Grove City Council tonight is approving the latest giveaway, a so-called community reinvestment area designation for 290 acres at Route 665 and Harrisburg Pike. In the coming years, the city is expected to hand out more tax giveaways for hundreds of acres east of this area. When all this land is finally developed, these CRA tax giveaways are expected to cost Southwestern city schools hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in lost tax revenue. Excuse me. In district-wide elections, Southwestern voters have approved school levies for a very specific purpose, for the education of our children. But the Grove City administration and city council on their own, without a vote of the people, have taken this money and given it to wealthy real estate developers for such housing projects as Pinnacle and Beulah Park. Again, these property taxes were approved by Southwestern voters in district-wide elections. But the tax giveaways of this money were approved by a majority of only 5 people, city council. Despite this board's frugal stewardship of finances, sooner or later, Southwestern schools will need to go to the ballot for a property tax increase. I hope when that time comes, supporters of the levy will, as supporters of the recent Jackson Township fire levy did, blame tax giveaways to wealthy developers as one of the reasons for the need for a tax increase. And again, congratulations, guys, on what you've done in the past years, and thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Ruth, for your
Thank you.
public participation.
Thank you, Mr. Ruth.
And next up, it is recommended that the Board of Education adjourn to executive session according to policy 0166 to consider the appointment or employment of a public employee. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Anthony Caldwell.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Caldwell,
Yes.
Mr. Donofrio,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Schreiner,
Yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes. And after the executive session, we will adjourn.
You can hear us now?
I can't, are we still muted? Is that-
You guys are muted. Maybe Hugh has control of it.
Hey, Lee's on mine. Mine was a terrible thing to lose.
Can you raise your hand if you can hear us? Yeah, you can hear us.
There we go.
There it is.
All right.
Okay, everybody. Sounds good.
Can you turn that one off?
Oh, echo.
I think I unmuted him here.
Okay.
Can we hear him now?
Now the board's muted.
Go ahead and do that. We'll muddle through.
It's fine.
There we go.
We'll live. Okay, next, I have a motion to adjourn.
Don't we have to take roll to come back in?
Okay.
Roll call. Mr. Caldwell. Mr. Caldwell.
Here.
Mr. Donofrio.
Here.
Ms. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Shriner.
Here.
Mr. Ragland.
Here. Next, motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. Donofrio.
Yes.
Mr. Shriner.
Yes.
Mr. Ragland.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. And remember, wear your mask, wash your hands, and utilize social distance.